it's a very exciting time where
Absolutely.
we are.
I'm excited. I feel like Big Kev. I'm excited.
Where's he from?
Big Kev, was it laundry products or what was it? The takeaway is it can be exciting. It is an opportunity. And if we can get everyone or most people on that vibe and feeling that way, then change can be done well. It can be done very poorly, but it can be done well. But hopefully in, a few episodes time, I'll be sharing with you, just how great things are, and we're getting there. So
if you're not, I'll be the host and you won't ever see Zoe again, listeners.
if I
Actually, that's not true, because if Zoe's not here, they definitely won't make me the host. So that's not even accurate.
No, if I don't show up one episode, then I've done this change very poorly and I'm working selling laundry products or whatever Big Kev was doing. Hello and welcome back to the Capability Corner. This is the podcast where we explore what's happening in healthcare, workforce development and capability building. I'm Zoe Youl, and it has in front of me, I'm Head of Community at Ausmed, but that is going to change as of tomorrow, but we'll come to that in a minute. And as always, I am joined by the brilliant Michelle Wicki, Chief Customer Officer at Ausmed. Woo, woo, woo. Keeping everyone happy, and our inaugural, but we might have to drop the inaugural soon because you're here, you're shining brightly.
You're gonna get
Dr.
fired.
Karen Patterson, Chief Nursing Officer. Welcome. How are we all today?
We're shining. We're glowing. Someone would say we're glowing. Yeah, like a tan just before a Bali trip. That's what some would say. Can I make a special mention? Just wanted to say, a special listener out there who wanted to reach out to the program. Gary, hi.
Hi, Gary.
We hear you, and we're really glad to have you with us again today.
Well, it's great to get
really
fan
lovely,
mail.
positive fan mail from Gary.
Yeah. And you too, if you're not called Gary, you're also welcome to write in and give us positive feedback.
That's
Constructive
right.
criticism also welcome.
Yeah,
But positive
feelings,
feedback will get you
emotions.
a shout out.
Yeah,
So
shout
shout
out.
out to anyone.
And I think the posts on LinkedIn have generated some conversation as well, which is great.
I didn't like the one that said Wicki can have a break, please replace her. But the others were good. I know that came from you, Karen.
Well, I think we've got a really spicy episode to cover today. It's something that I'm in the middle of right now. So I'm basically here to get free advice, therapy, consulting. Our listeners, you're going to get some really good free consulting. I'm basically bringing, my life to the Brains Trust here today because right now I'm transitioning out of my role as Head of Community back into what I like to call my natural habitat. And that is, as of tomorrow, I will be starting, I'm still at Ausmed, don't worry, everyone, as Head of Learning and Capability. So, thank you. It's made me reflect on what it means to navigate change. So, that's our big topic of conversation today. But I think let's start with what's going on. Let's do a little round robin. What are you up to, Karen?
I think last time we talked about the governance framework, so that is still in motion from there, and with the changing landscape and the increasing use of different technologies, and that people are sort of saying, who can we trust? And I think it's great that Ausmed is going through this transparent process of, showing with accountability, well, you can trust us. And That's what this governance work is doing. So that's
pretty cool.
I've really enjoyed it.
That's great. I can't wait to hear and see and do more. I feel like I'm going to get a very long list of things that you need me to do. Together. We will do. We will partner. But, I've been, really knee deep in reviewing references, content, really thinking and looking at our content integrity. And I agree, being trusted, being a source where in this world where you can get any answer, like what is Michelle going to cook for dinner? What can she do with chicken and cream? And maybe, oh no, you don't have mushrooms.
Send in your suggestions now.
Send in your suggestions, everyone. People aren't cooking with mushrooms at the moment.
Well, not in Victoria, are they?
Not in Victoria, I know.
No.
All right, what's been going on for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to be surprised by this, but AI. I was talking to someone again about AI and how much I'm using it. Someone said to me, he thought if we all use AI too much, we're not going to be experts in anything. And I thought it was a really interesting comment. And my first response was, who cares? He was saying, if you take the example of Air France, who crashed into the water because the pilots went off autopilot and they didn't know how to remedy the plane. And so the plane crashed, and my condolences to everyone involved in that. Wasn't recent. And he said, so we just won't have any experts. And I said, look, I really think there was probably a significant difference between whether I can write good emails because I'm using Chappy too much, or whether people can write planes after caretaking for 376 passengers. So it was an interesting point, when do we not become experts? But then the other part of me thought, well, because he also said, well, we just get lazy and we don't learn anything because we're using AI too much. But then I thought, well, we invented cars and now we don't walk anywhere, so we're very lazy. I think those are really simplistic arguments because I'm just on the AI train and I'm not getting off anytime soon. So, I think I was on Chappy again 3 times today, just in the work time. One of them was not work-related. At the end of this, I'll then jump on for a not work-related issue again about dinner. But, just loving my AI space. Just using it for wherever I can.
Really shaking up some of the change. I know we're not talking theory, but some of the change theories is, just the pace. So the pace, like we used to talk about the pace of change. We've been in that information paradigm for a bit now, but the acceleration of that in regard to having access to AI to test your thinking out with, something that is able to draw on multiple sources at once and come back to you with some recommendations. And I think coming back to accountability and the governance side of things, you still have to you still decide what you're going to serve your family for dinner, even if the machine tells you a million different recipes. That's right.
I wouldn't have wanted that, though.
No, you can choose not to put mushrooms in your chicken cream dish
Definitely
tonight.
Not death cap mushrooms.
Yeah, it is something that we need to still be accountable for everything that comes from it. So I think that's, but I can understand that fear, and obviously if there's, obviously common known case studies about pilots not being able to fly a plane, that's pretty
that's a bit scary,
terrifying for people, and then they'll just extrapolate that back to their everyday practice, and maybe I'll forget how to cross the road or something. It'll just become something really common, and that then, which is where fear comes in. Most times when it's around change, why people, they want to change, they know things have to change, but they're fearful of the change. And I think that's the human side.
100%.
That brings
hold
it in.
that thought, because we're going to tap into that, Karen, because I know you are going to bring so much amazing psychology, tell us why people do this and why they react to that. If we think about change, I think AI or not AI, but I agree. It feels like things are changing quicker, but we know it's a constant. In healthcare, there is change is just constant. It's ever present, and it always will be there. No matter how fast it's going. You've got reforms. We've got massive reforms in aged care. You've got role changes. We have new standards constantly changing. But I think, how often do we actually stop and think about what capability it actually takes to navigate that change? Like we think about it, we feel it, we know it's happening, we embrace it, we resist it, whatever we do. But I think for our conversation, I really want to tap into what does it take from a capability perspective to navigate that change, with confidence, but also with care. I guess let's get stuck into it. I would love to start with a bit of a story or an example. or an experience of change that you both have navigated, big or small, ideally professionally. I feel, there's a lot of changes that constantly go on in our lives that are also build that capability. But what's a professional change? And I am going to go back to you first, Karen, that you've navigated. Can you share that with us to give us a bit of a sense of your experience?
A significant change over the last 5 years was with my role with New South Wales Health. We reviewed the statewide curriculum for safety and quality. It was a discovery to begin with, was to find out what is happening, and listening to people, getting all the different perspectives. Through that process, my position description was to bring change in, to create a new curriculum and update it, make it contemporary. But where I got to through that process was less about directing change and more about holding the space for people to be able to listen to where they were coming from, thinking around all of the different activities that were happening, thinking around how, imagine if these guys actually knew what these guys were doing together, they actually make a whole from there. But there's a gap that's stopping them from talking to each other. What is that? How can we bring that together? We changed the model from being around, a statewide led and delivered program to being where we were partners. We built local faculty and build their capability so they could deliver the safety and quality curriculum locally. Because what people wanted was they wanted not only the content, but they wanted a sense of safety of the person, that if they needed help, they knew who the people were around them, or if they wanted to ask a question or they wanted to pursue something. And it wasn't about, who was the expert. It was actually about the content being built together to provide that expertise. But then the delivery was more around the connection and giving people that space and holding the space for them to own it locally, but also to learn, to fail, to learn, to succeed, and to go forward from there. So that's
lovely. I heard
abridged version.
As I said, if I'm using this as a bit of group counselling, what I picked up that were my takeaways from what you said were listening, engaging with people, asking questions that can probably be summarised by just connecting with people, but also that psychological safety and giving people that opportunity and the support to feel safe through that change. Michelle, can you give us an example of a recent experience with change that you've navigated? How did it go?
No, I can't. I'm going to wiki this one. I'm going to politician you and give you my own conversation despite what your question is. I am so good at change, and therefore I am so bad at change management. I have no concept of what it's like inside my brain, intrinsically, instinctually in me, to not want to change. I do not understand it at all. I will change everything and anything at any time for mostly anyone. Sometimes I do want to own it. So sometimes someone will make a super helpful idea. I went to a psychologist once. Long story. I won't go into that story now. But I walked out.
Whatever that is, let's park it.
I walked out of almost every single session thinking, she's an idiot. She's an idiot. What stupid things she said. And then usually by about 36 hours later, I was like, yeah, that's right. I'm going to do that. Okay, yep, she was right. Because I just need the process to then own it. But I still am very quick to get there. And otherwise, if it's me wanting change happens.
I guess that is a good point to just stop for our listeners to, think, how comfortable are you with change? I'm probably on the 50% yes, 50% no, or comfortable, not and maybe I feel like, mostly in life, I feel like I'm slower to change around family things. But work-wise, I'm the same. I'm like, I love it. Let's do it. And I've got to just remember, not everyone is as comfortable with change as what you may be right now. Slow, bring people with you. Let's get everyone on board to go forward. No, you got another
over that. I'm so over that.
Well, it all depends if the change is just about you changing, or if it is a change that you're leading, or trying to engage others to be
what you need change, who you need to change. Is it a person thing? Is it a process thing? Is it a strategy thing?
I don't think it's necessarily that, Karen, because I think that turns it back to us, the change makers, whether you instinctually like to make change or whether you're told and directed that you are there to make the change and that is your job and your directive. Irrelevant of where the initiation of the change making is coming from, why are we always slowing things down or pacing it to the lowest common denominator or the slowest common denominator? Why do we have to do that? And I know I'm being, provocative, and maybe if you get me in a quieter moment, I'll calm down a little bit. But I guess my point is, where is the onus and the responsibility and the accountability on all the other people affected by the change to actually come to the table with an open mind and a mind for change and a mind for growth, and saying, yeah, you know what, I'm going to step out of my comfort zone and I just am going to jump on this train of change. I just am going to trust that person. I'm going to give it a go until we've proven it wrong, because either way, you're a winner. You are either right, the change was stupid and they shouldn't have done it, or you're right because the change was right and you got there with everyone else and aligned with. But I guess my point is, we spend so much conversation talking about change management plans and what have you put in place and how have you nurtured people to come with you and how have you aligned the vision and the mission for you to join with us and be here and, be on the journey with us. Why is the conversation not back to those coalface, grassroots, frontline people that actually, why are you not on the journey? Why are you running to join the change makers?
My bias would be that a lot of people have been burnt by change. So they don't speak up because they either disengage and just become the robots of doing what people told them to do, even though they know it's going to fail and they'll just have fun watching it fail, or perhaps nudging it a bit that way to make sure it fails because they're invested in keeping the status quo. And so that's about understanding what the change is and creating that. So as you said, why do people not speak up? Because, it's already been defined, the timeline, the outcome, the budget, and everything from there. So as far as what's the use? What's the use of me giving my, creative ability and what I've noticed into the mix here, because we're just going to have to do what has been said. So you would also be aware that change fails quite a lot in healthcare. We're definitely not.
It's that cycle. I feel like there's possible resistance because it does feel like it comes around, and it's like, okay, we're doing this again. This is happening again. I do hear what you're saying, Karen, and I think for many of our listeners that work in, large, small, medium health aged care organisations, unfortunately, there is that experience. So what I want to ask back to you both is, what are the big mistakes that either people or organisations make when it comes to change?
It is about, the methodology, like they actually start with quite a programmatic approach, which they've already worked out the outcomes, the timelines and all the parts from there. The research shows that, there's only like 30% of change that's successful taking that approach. The part that they get wrong is you cannot spend enough time, I'm sorry, Michelle, listening to people and letting that change, changing the language, changing the conversation. It is difficult, and as we talked at the very beginning, I think the change is making us rethink what change is, because we had a nice way of doing it and it used to get us there, and now people are different. It's a whole new different generation of people in the workforce. They have different expectations. They've got different experiences. They want to be engaged in different ways. They want to learn. All of these are, how do you bring that forward? And part of that is that generative or emergent part, which is about, okay, we've got to get there. Who wants to come? Who wants to get involved in this? And, and the other part, I suppose, from a leader perspective is, how do you hold that space for your team to be able to engage in that change? So that's about how do you get, your chief executive or other to back off and go, we've got it.
This, yeah.
Leave my people, they're my people. We're working together. What do you need that we can help you feel comfortable that we've got this, and we're going to take you to a place you won't believe, and it's going to be fantastic. So I think there's not enough permission or freedom within the system to be able to have those conversations and be able to hold that space to actually let people, do their magic when they actually come in together from there.
Beautiful. Michelle, for someone that is so comfortable with change, what are the big mistakes that you think people make?
I think for people like me who do embrace change and it does come from within and don't really understand why people don't want it, and I get what you're saying, Karen, around people have been hurt by change or it's been hard or it hasn't been right and we've failed. I get that. But again, I want to give time to the people that go, and people who've been stuck in the status quo have been hurt, and people that are frozen in the past have been hurt, and people that are led by managers that will not innovate or will not move or will not evolve have been hurt and get burned. So I guess I want to air that out for my people out there, that the same can be said on the other side of this situation. I do it poorly generally as a manager because I don't understand it as well. What I can say is the times that my enthusiasm for the greener grass or the better world or the newer space or the newer age is often what will get me through that change maker scenario and that change management piece. And getting it right. Maybe the first 3 times I changed something, it was really hard and it was difficult, and maybe Michelle's enthusiasm got the team there. But by the 4th and 5th time, it becomes easy because Michelle's proved herself that actually the change is worth it. It does get results. And so, we'll go on this journey faster or easier or smoother with Michelle, because even though we don't like change, she's proven herself. So sometimes reputation gets you there. Sometimes enthusiasm gets you there. And absolutely, sometimes calmness and cadence and aligning everyone and bring them all on the journey gets you there, a planned process. But I'm a wing it kind of girl, so I'll go with enthusiasm.
I think you've hit the nail on the head, and that's that you just got to put your emotional intelligence hat on, and just assess what do you think for each person or each team or department or whoever you're working with, what do you think they need right now? Do they need the enthusiasm? Do they need the calm? Do they need the plan? Do they need... Is it rational?
I don't like that either, Zoe. No, I'm not even. No, I don't like that either. Don't you end on that, because I completely disagree with that too. I think then you're pitching it at your audience. And if your audience doesn't like change, then you've just pitched it for them. And why are you pitching it for the slow makers?
Well, I would say, Michelle, what I've noticed about you is that.
Oh God, that's will open up that podcast.
I told you it's free therapy for all of us,
whether I wanted it or not.
But and I think the part that change comes easy to you, but you share your discoveries. Like you always say, oh, look what I've discovered, look what I did, or how you did it as well. Like it's not just what I've come up with. It's actually, you talk about the work that you do to get there. So in that space of, your team and leading your team, I think that's the part, like you said, about you excite them or parts or you show them that things that can be done. And that then gives them permission. And I would, without a doubt, feel that your team would come forward to you with an idea that they've had a bit of a play with to say, how about we, accelerate this? What do you think that would look like from there? And they'd know that you would give them an honest answer. And I think that authenticity is what builds trust. And also that permission, like you show them every day that you're up there and you're ready to play. And, that then, and there are people who will sit in the stalls, but what they do is they support you as well. And that's the bit where the things that you put forward. So everyone plays a different role. So I think from a managing side of things, it is what I took from what you were saying is about being authentic. And that's, you know yourself, your strengths, you play to them, and you invite your team to be part of it in whatever way works for them. But also, where you're going.
Oh, there you go, Zoe. You should just ask Karen why Michelle's a good change maker, how she does change well.
Please summarise Michelle's point in 30 seconds. I'm surprised that I honestly, I feel like I made a bet. I can't remember who it was with, but I've lost a bet because I was talking about this episode. I think it was with Nick, our producer, at lunch when he said, Zoe, you're all ready for the podcast this afternoon? I said, yeah, we're all ready. It's all good. I feel like I know exactly what we're going to, what we're going to be chatting about. And I said, like, Michelle will have some great gold nuggets, and Karen will have the beautiful theory, the model behind it. I said, yeah, I bet she'll talk about Kotter's 4 principles of change. I said, in fact, I bet you. So you prove me wrong. You prove me wrong, Karen. But I do want to get the Karen Patterson version of Kotter's model. Bear with us, Michelle. I know you'll love it.
Oh God, I'm already.
She's rolling for anyone that can't see us right now. I'm just going to, because I remember I did a beautiful master's, and I'm going to shout out Malcolm Anderson at Avondale College, and one of the units, strategic planning for leaders, or something like that, super old school, and it was printed off references that are about 2 inches thick, and Kotter was one of them. So when we spoke about Kotter a couple of weeks ago for one of our webinars, I thought, oh my gosh, I haven't thought of Kotter for a long time. I better go back and read. And I think it's brilliant. I think it makes sense. And he talks about the 4 core change principles. One is management and leadership. They are different, and we need both. You might have a natural tendency to move from one to the other, or be one or the other, but you've got to have that management, that control, that consistency, but also you've got to be the leader, that authenticity, that flair, that vision. This is where we're going. He also talks about head and heart, win the hearts and the minds. I don't know if that's connected, but that's how I remember that is, connect with people, go out for a coffee, but then give them that rational plan. This is also, I know you need to know the facts, and this is why we're doing it. This is the stats, this is the data, but hey, let me show you and understand you as a person. They have to and want to, and thinking that, I think this is what you touch on, Karen, is that we want people to want to come with us. They have to. They have to come with us, but we need to get and help people to get in an environment where they want to come on this direction with us as well. And then the last being, know your people. I think Kotter says, select, it's a few and many, but if you look at your team or your department, you will know your Michelles. You're going to know the people that will support this change and will take you forward, get them on board, but then know how you're going to get everyone else on board as well. So, Karen, is that a good summary of Kotter's 4 principles? Is it a nice takeaway? Good. I'm glad, Karen.
And I'll just say that the emphasis is on the and, because it isn't about polarities or part. It is actually, it's being leader and management. So it's not that either or. You've got your few that you work with and bring things together, but it's actually about how do you keep the many engaged and following and being parts from there. And that's similar to that sort of programmatic and generative change, which is about having a logic and a program and a structure, because that particularly if you're working in bureaucratic organizations, etc. But the generative part is that you're actually influencing the language, and that brings in the hearts and minds from there as well. So there is a logic to it, but there's also a feeling and an emotional, and that brings the want to. So they all blend. The other one, from a theory part, I also like Lewin's theory. So, and it's one that's quite often used, and I really think it's a great example for people right now in thinking about, the change of state, going from a frozen state to unfreezing and then refreezing. But thinking in the contemporary world, you don't ever get a chance to refreeze, because the changes are constant and coming more often. So when you go back in the day to the parts, well, yes, now we were this state and we're going to change the conditions, and so that you will unfreeze, and then we'll bring you back together into a new state and you'll be fantastic. But that new state now needs to be constantly evolving and adapting from there. So it's a really nice, and I call that about sludge then, because it used to be about ice, like changing, but you're actually sludging through snow now rather than having this beautifully formed shape. And that gives you permission to think that it is messy. Change is messy. Change, and if we say that change is constant and evolving, so the shape keeps reframing, and particularly if we're looking at the many from there, and people will reform into different shapes, not necessarily what we designed. And those conditions, those sort of, the conditions within that are the parts that enable the change to be progressive and to create or discover new. So in that new form, you can actually form into new creases and go into different places from there. So taking advantage.
I think there's some gold nuggets there. It is time for Wicki's Rants.
Oh.
Your 2 minutes of unfiltered Michelle. What's grinding your gears? Is it about change, or you just
No, I'm going to keep it on topic today.
So. Keep on. Yeah. Love it. 3, 2, 1, go.
We talk about change management plans and, do you have your change management plan? Have you put it in place? What are you doing? Communicating, bring everyone on board, etc. Do you know what I think we should be doing? We should be embedding inside a change management plan. I haven't told you to throw it out, which is pretty nice of me. I would like to do that, but I'm not going to do that because I think I'll be thrown out if I say that. So within your change management plan, you should have also a change reluctance plan. Oh. And it's like this pyramid where, like, if the person's a little bit reluctant, this is what happens for them. If they're a lot reluctant, this is what's happening. And if they're like, cannot move, well, what's going to happen to them then. But I'm going to say that you're allowed to then also have a little deviation at that point of like, some kind of resource or support for the person. So, what should they read or what should they do or what mantra should they be saying in the morning to the mirror every day about how they're going to cope with Zoe trying to make change or whatever manager it is to make change. But also knowing that if they're not continuing to try and evolve, then we're not going to get there. So I think, I just think, again, with my whole idea that we approach change like change is the hard thing or change is the bad thing or change is the thing that needs all the management so that everyone's on board. I would just like us to call out that actually change reluctance is what doesn't make things happen. It's where we don't evolve. The only thing we can rely on is change because we need to evolve and move and be agile and be flexible. And so we need to call out those people or those things that aren't changing and give them a little bit of support, some resources at a personal individual level so they can jump on the train and take responsibility for themselves to be in the change space and find out how to be excited about it. And that's it. I think that was 45 seconds today.
That wasn't even 2 minutes, but I think spot on. I love that.
Well, maybe not spot on, but
that wasn't a rant. That wasn't a rant. That was some really great advice. I'm thinking, oh my God, I haven't done a change management plan.
I don't do them. And look how successful I've become in life.
Yeah. No, it's really positive, I think, Michelle. Like that's, just acknowledging that resistance is normal. Like that's like you said, we need to change to evolve, but deep in our gut, we also resist change because we need to survive and we know that where we are is okay. So it's that tension is constantly there. It's just naming and how different people respond to it and what do they need to help them.
Do you think there's a spectrum from reluctance to resistance? And is that even in your pyramid, Michelle? Like, that's one rung down and like resistance is flat out, no, I'm not putting my shoes on. And reluctance is, can you please put my shoes on? I don't want to put my shoes on.
Yeah.
They're different. There's just so many bits along the spectrum of I'm there, I'm getting there, I don't want to go, I'm not going, okay, I might go, all right, let's go,
Absolutely. But what do they say? And I hope this saying hasn't been cancelled and I've missed it, but don't they say, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and thinking that something different is going to happen. The status quo is not the ultimate space to be. And, as we know, life does evolve and change. And
the other is the boiled frog, which is the other example, and maybe that could do for dinner tonight. But
with cream, no mushrooms.
So it slowly warms up and the frog never notices until he passes away from there, but in the scheme of things.
All right, so to wrap up, one thing, short, sharp takeaway, how to do change well. Let's go.
Use whatever resources you have authentically, instinctually, to get to the outcome that is actually the best place to be. And don't hold on to can I add two? And don't hold on to the idea that you have to actually have everyone and everything with you by the finish line to feel like it was successful. because sometimes that's actually not success, and sometimes that's not what had to be, and sometimes that's not the seasonal plan for everything. If you know what the end goal is and you do everything that you possibly can, respectfully and empathically, to get there, that's success.
Nice. Thank you.
Unless Karen says it's not, and then I take it back.
Karen.
So I'll do mine. So
I'll do mine.
I'll do mine. I was just
Cut. Action.
What was I thinking? Succinct was build the fire together.
To burn down the house. Yeah.
If that's
I'm with you. I'm with you. Simpatico, Kaza. We're good.
Love it. I appreciate it. It's very timely for me to be reflecting on these types of things. I appreciate your honesty, your openness, and I hope our listeners have gotten a few little nuggets, as we like to say, out of this episode. So without further ado, just thanking everyone for listening. Thanks for joining us on today's episode. If you have thoughts, feelings, concerns, feedback, any changes you'd like us to make to this session, or any ideas that you want us to discuss, if there's a burning capability question on your mind, let us know. We'll tackle it. Follow us on LinkedIn, subscribe to the Toolbox, and email us with any of those thoughts, feelings, or concerns at podcast@ausmed.com.au. Thanks, everyone. See you next time.
Zoe.
Thanks, Karen. Bye.
Bye.